I never trusted ice cream trucks. I never liked them either. Mostly because an ice cream truck playing music meant that there is a horde of screeching kids close by. I used to loathe when the ice cream truck went by. The tinny sound of green sleeves filling the air. The sounds of kids giggling and running down the street after it. And then the song would be stuck in my head for hours after that. I loved when it finally got too cold for the ice cream man to come around. I never understood the appeal of it. Buying overpriced ice cream from a stranger in a truck. Maybe parents just went along with it to shut their kids up. I don't know. So you can imagine how I felt when I noticed an ice cream truck sitting at the end of my street. I was immediately filled with annoyance and confusion. I thought it was still too cold for ice cream. Didn't they start coming around closer to summer? I ground my teeth and I braced myself, waiting for the music to start playing. It was like nails on a chalkboard to me. But it never came. I went to the front window and I peeked through the blinds. It was just sitting there, parked. As far as I could tell, the truck wasn't running. I felt like one of those stereotypical old people, peeping out of the window and glaring at the kids playing outside. But none of the kids were playing outside. I wasn't old, and there was no one to glare at. It was a weird truck. The side read, Mr. Scoopy's Ice Cream, in big red letters. I had never heard of Mr. Scoopy's before, but maybe it was a new company. There was a disturbing mascot under the letters too. It looked like a larger ice cream cone eating a smaller terrified one. Was this supposed to entice kids to spend their money here? I thought it was creepy. I watched as the kid who lived across the street, Noah, came out of the garage and sheepishly walked down the street towards the truck. I could see his dad laying on his back under a car. Isaac had recently started restoring classic cars. He was in the process of fixing up a red Camaro this time. He probably just gave him some money so he could get some peace. I had seen him and his wife fighting through their windows. Heard them arguing in the garage too, late at night. I'm pretty sure the whole neighborhood had heard them. I didn't care what their problems were or what they did in their free time. I was a no-nonsense, no-drama kind of guy. This was a quiet neighborhood when I moved here. Now everyone was having kids and those kids were screaming and playing all the time and giving me headaches. And now the damn ice cream man was early for the season. I frowned as I watched Noah come back up the street, head hung slightly. He retreated back in the garage. Not caring what the problem was, I humped and I went back to the couch to watch TV. I heard what the problem had been later that night though. I had opened my windows to let the crisp breeze in as I got ready for bed. I like having fresh air, and I liked the room cold when I slept. But the open windows clued me in on Isaac and his wife having a screaming match in the garage. She was yelling about him being a bad parent, a nearly absent father, and asked why he thought it was a good idea to let Noah have ice cream right before dinner. His reply was that it didn't matter. The truck had been empty anyway. Quite the comeback. But the truck was still in the same spot in the morning. It caught my eye when I went out for my morning paper. Maybe someone down the street got a job as an ice cream man. I thought, and I went about my day. A few hours later, I had just gotten settled on my couch and was ready to play the new Doom game when my dog, Bailey, interrupted. I had rescued her when I first moved here. Thought that it might be nice to have someone to share the house with. But here she was, interrupting my Saturday afternoon plans. She sat right in front of the TV with her leash in her mouth. She looked at me with those big puppy dog eyes that I just can't say no to. And that's how I found myself walking down the street towards the ice cream truck, when that damn music started wailing. I stopped, immediately irritated, and turned back towards the house when the leash on my hand pulled back. Bailey was standing there, refusing to budge. She barked and looked at me expectantly. "Alright, fine," I muttered. My voice was immediately drowned out by the music. I swear Bailey had an extra pep in her step as we continued our walk. I happened to glance through one of the windows of the truck as we walked by. The window in the back was open, but no one was in there as far as I could tell. No one was in the driver's seat either. We did one lap around the block, and when I found myself back at my front door, I realized the truck was still playing music but hadn't moved from its spot at the curb. I was convinced the music was louder than it had been before. Swearing internally, I put Bailey inside and I marched down to the house that the truck was parked in front of. I banged on their door, the ice cream tune piercing my ears. A middle-aged couple opened the door and immediately clasped their hands over their ears. I started shouting to be heard over the noise, but it was pointless. They opened the door wider and I stepped inside. As soon as the door shut, the music was muffled, but it could still clearly be heard. If I lived in this house, I would be livid, and my anger gave way to sympathy. "Can't you do anything about that truck?" I pleaded. They both looked at me sympathetically. "We tried," the husband said. "We thought it belonged to someone else here, but when it was still here this morning, we checked with all of the neighbors. It doesn't belong to anyone here, and no one knows where it came from. We called to have it towed and we called the police, but because it isn't an emergency, it's still not a priority. We called hours ago and they still haven't sent someone." "So this isn't your truck?" I asked. They both shook their heads. "We haven't seen anyone inside it, or we would have asked them to move it." I thanked them and I apologized for bothering them. As soon as they opened the door, we were all assaulted with the tinny music. I made my way back to my house, looking like an idiot with my hands over my ears. Once I was safely inside, I started unclipping the leash from Bailey, who had waited patiently for me to come home. I was interrupted by a knock at my door, and Bailey immediately started barking. I opened it to find Isaac, and let him in so that we could talk better. "Did you find out what the deal is with that truck?" he asked, looking uncomfortable. "No, why? Do you know anything?" "Something ain't right about that truck. No one went there to get ice cream yesterday, but he said no one was there. When I saw it was still there last night before bed, I went to look at it, but still, no one was there. I already asked Randy and he said it's not his, and he doesn't know who parked it in front of his house. They called the police to have it removed, so there's not much that we can do but sit and wait," I said, hoping Isaac would get the hint to leave. I didn't want any part of whatever nonsense this was. I just wanted to spend my Saturday with my dog, playing video games. "Anne's kid is missing," Isaac whispered, even though we were the only ones here. There was a serious look in his eyes. "What?" I asked. I had never heard of a kid going missing here. "She said her daughter went to get ice cream. It must have been sometime this morning, but she never came back. They were combing the neighborhood when the music started playing. Something wasn't adding up here, but I didn't know what it was." "What? The truck is moving," I said as something caught my eye outside of the window. Big letters spelling out Mr. Scoopy's ice cream slowly passed by. We both ran to see it. The music was now playing at a much more acceptable volume, but the truck was stopped in the very middle of the road. The window was open and I could see someone inside it now. Anyone want anything? A funny-looking man asked, leaning out of the window. He was missing teeth, balding, and his ears were way too big. He looked small and frail, like he had never seen the inside of a gym once in his life. Isaac's wife stood in the garage, watching the truck, a protective arm holding Noah in place. Other parents were starting to come out of their houses as well, but no children ran forward. No? Nothing? He chuckled, eyeing Noah. No ice cream for you, little boy. Isaac's wife tightened her hold on Noah, but Noah's eyes were wide with fear. The weird little man in the truck just shut the window and cut off the music. And the truck just sat there, parked in the middle of the street, until the music sounded again the next day. There was no sign or word from the cops. When the music started playing, I was on my way back home after a walk with Bailey. As soon as the window opened and the little man stuck his head out to address all of us, Bailey started growling at him. Bailey never growled. She would bark when people came to the door, but otherwise, she was usually very quiet and sweet. Shut that dog up, the man shouted, glaring at us. Shh. I hushed her and I put a hand on her back to quiet her. I could feel that every muscle on her body was tight and tense. Now then, what will it be today? The man asked as everyone else in the street exited their houses. No one said a word, but I could tell everyone was uneasy. Nothing again, the man called out again. Well, that's all right, but I won't be leaving until someone buys something. As the man leaned back into his ice cream truck and started to shut the window, a voice called out to him. Where's Wyatt? Where's my son? A tired-looking woman carefully stepped closer to the truck. What's that? The ice cream man asked, leaning back out. My son. He asked if he could get some ice cream, but he never came back. You would have been the last person that he saw. Where is he? The woman called back, her voice shaking. My daughter's been missing since yesterday. Another woman called, presumably Anne. A couple of other cries joined theirs. I'm not here to talk about missing kids. I'm here to sell ice cream. The man laughed. Something about his laugh sent goosebumps crawling all over my skin. All right, I'll buy some. A voice called out. Was that my voice? I felt myself moving robotically towards the truck. Bailey whined beside me. Oh, what's that? The creepy little man leered at me from inside his truck. As I approached, I could see that he was wearing an apron, which wasn't that uncommon. What was uncommon, though, was that the apron was one of the heavy rubber ones, not fabric, and the awful stench radiating from his truck, as well as the dark red pattern on his apron. I felt my blood had turned to ice. I'll buy some, I gulped. If I buy something, you'll leave, right? It wasn't like I was in control anymore, and my body was just doing what it wanted. I never got in the middle of anything. I kept to myself, and that was how I liked it. So why did I feel the need to be a hero now? What will it be? The man asked, an eager look in his eyes. A vanilla cup, please. The ice giant ice cream cone painted on the side of the truck somehow looked even more menacing. I reached into my pocket for my wallet and Bailey whined again next to me. She had a pleading look in her eye and pulled the leash back towards the house. Here you are, sir. One vanilla cup with a cherry on top. I looked up to see he was holding a cup out to me. I took it with a shaking hand. It was filled with vanilla ice cream, but there was something red and pulpy on top, As soon as I realized what it was, I dropped the cup and vomited all over the street to my shoes. Bailey finally tugged free and bolted back to the front yard to wait for me. The man slid the window shut, cackling. In seconds, the truck was rolling down the street, playing that wretched music. My vision spun, focused on the spilled cup of ice cream in the street. A small bloody eye lay in the middle of the mess, staring back at me. The police showed up shortly after that. They took in information about the missing children, and everyone on the street had similar reports about the ice cream truck and the man driving it, but no one remembered seeing a license plate. The police said that they had never heard of an ice cream company called Mr. Scoopy's Ice Cream. Now when I hear the twinkling sound of green sleeves being played as an ice cream truck drives by, it brings about entirely different feelings. Feelings of terror and dread.